Signing day is in the books for Michigan, and there is a bunch of little stuff that we can talk about. We do need to finally kind of discuss the offensive coordinator of it all. I'll give you some ideas of who I would really like. Warde Manuel got extended. Ohio State fans are still melting down. This is just a big melting pot of things to discuss. So we'll get to it all on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Having a little bit of a late start today. Got a haircut. You can't really see it. Well, you can see it if I show it to you. It's long. Got a beard cut. I took a nap. Things that happen after early signing day, the marathon of a couple days of preparing for it and actually getting to it. Michigan got yet another signee in Jaden Sanders today. So now we wait and see if Andrew Olesh does in fact sign with Michigan. It would be preferable, obviously, to have that happen. But Jaden Sanders, I mean, he's a guy that's just got another 6'2" corner. He's I think a little underrated. It's been a long time since I watched his film that was back in the summer when he committed. And I mean, that's the type of guy that Michigan has needed. I mean, it's been a heck of a defensive back class. Would have still liked to have gotten Grayson Littleton. I do believe Michigan was trying to get in there late and was willing to let Alex Graham walk as a result. And he ends up going to USC. But nonetheless, that is good. You finally got him in the fold. Things are progressing. As the class is almost not full, but signed. And obviously there's a couple guys that are going to be going after. Still Haywood is the big fish. I feel like that's probably going to happen. Zahir Mathis, the former Ohio State commit edge rusher, that would certainly make you feel a little bit better about the defensive line in this class. And it's right there with pretty much any class in the country in terms of average ranking. It's like 92.24 per star. According to 24/7 Sports Composite. Ohio State's slightly ahead, but obviously has their classes higher. They also only have 2 5-stars. Michigan has an opportunity to close out with 3, which is pretty amazing because there's just a point where I think we were setting it at like 1.5 earlier in the year, and it kind of looked like Babalola was going to be that only guy. So the Wolverines are going to also start dipping in their toes into the transfer portal. There's no rest coming because that opens at like Monday or something like that. And you're hearing of all kinds of guys coming and going. Michigan's lost a couple guys themselves, whether it's Tavier Dunlap, Tristan Bounds, Logan Forbes, Tyler Morris being the big one, obviously. He's the only starter who has so far put their name in. And that means Michigan's really going to have to do some retooling when it comes to the receiving core. Have my eyes on that wide receiver from Kentucky who just entered in, the offensive lineman from both Liberty and Northwestern. The Northwestern one, I think his name is Josh Thompson. Remember, I'm not great with names. Or faces. I'm not good with any of those things. But he's from Fenton, Michigan. Guess who else is in Fenton, Michigan? It would be me. So come home, Josh. Come home. Nonetheless, you're going to see a lot more people dip into the portal, and I'm still kind of waiting for Donovan McCulley to make his decision. It kind of seemed like he was going to be in the fold. I don't know what the holdup is there. Maybe it's getting things to transfer over. I'm not really sure. I'd heard from some colleagues, again, not my own sources here, but heard from some colleagues that was in really good shape. The reason I tell you that, not from my own sources, is, again, I want you to understand, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an insider on everything. I'm going to tell you the things that I do know and the things that I'm hearing from other reputable people, and I'm going to tell you when I don't know something. So that is where a lot of that stands. We're going to turn our eyes on the transfer portal. We'll do offensive coordinator stuff in segment 2. So let's get to Warde Manuel right now. And I am not surprised. And if you've watched or listened to this show for any time, I've been telling you that Warde is not as reviled inside the University of Michigan in the way that others lead you to believe. So I am not even slightly surprised that he got extended by 5 years, bringing him through the 2030 fiscal year. And I mean, you could read the tea leaves if you were paying attention by him getting that award over the summer that basically named him the AD of the year. He becomes the college football playoff chairperson. Like it was just obvious. And I know people were upset about the Jim Harbaugh of it all. As I've been saying to you, if Jim Harbaugh wanted to be at Michigan, he would be at Michigan, right? Like it's really that simple. He was under contract. He'd already gotten a retooled contract after the 2020 contract, or the contract that came after it. He absolutely could still be at Michigan. Now, if he was at Michigan, he might be under a show cause. But nonetheless, I'm not saying that Warde handled that amazingly. I'm not saying that Warde handled NIL amazingly. But I don't think that Jim Harbaugh was necessarily too concerned as far as some of that stuff as well. Hence I don't think it was that he was doing the transformational over transactional just as like a cover for Warde. Okay. I think that was also his belief. And, Sharon Moore has gotten with the times, and credit to Michigan for finding ways to kind of get involved into the 21st century in terms of what college football teams are doing. And they're doing it better than anybody in a lot of ways. And I'm looking forward to 2026. It could be Brave New World Michigan in a lot of ways. This already is. But the reason why I mention all that is because I know that Warde, I've seen him with my own eyes at a fundraising event the day of the national championship game, come out and give a very forceful speech being like, do you like being here? Did you like the Rose Bowl last week? If you did, and you do, then this is the way forward. This is the path. We need your help, right? You can sit there and say like, well, they could do this and they could do that. Like that's just not what Michigan's going to do. And it's not what it wants to do. And it's trying to find ways to be leaders and best in a way that makes them, in fact, leaders and best. So, and you can't deny what he did with Juwan Howard and dismissing him when no one, myself included, and I say this as a guy who knows and likes Warde, that he dismissed him and went and got Dusty May. And the early returns on Dusty May are obviously absolutely phenomenal, just beyond reproach. So you have to be excited about that. I understand if you're not excited about Warde being extended. I just am trying to bring you into reality a little bit and help you understand. Like I remember talking to him at I think it was either the Schroen or the Dusty May press conference, one of the two. And just like, talking to him about how I did some shows where I was defending him a little bit. It's funny to see that kind of come full circle in terms of him getting the extension, because I don't know where some of the narratives come from. I don't know who's spreading them. I just see that there's people on social media that have long thought he was going to be ousted at any minute. And I've just been trying to tell you that wasn't going to happen. Okay. So that's it. That's all I got there. I'll take my downvotes on the video for saying anything positive about Warde Manuel now. All right, let's talk about the offensive coordinator situation. Michigan fires Kirk Campbell. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it with early signing day and everything happening there. So we will get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's have some energy drink here. Let's see. Normally we record these now around 3:30 in the afternoon. It's currently 5:20 because someone's sleepy after the last couple days and is taking a quasi day off. There's plenty of things I need to write about. We'll write them tomorrow. So that's kind of where I'm at. Speaking of writing, check out on Wolverines Wire, the outside of the Bussin' with the Boys, the first time that we've gotten quotes from Connor Stallions. Connor was kind enough to send me some of the types of things that you've heard from me on this show, but in his actual words, his thoughts on what Bryce Underwood and Elijah Dotson bring to Michigan, why they're so special as players as well as just people. You're going to want to read that. I think it is going to get you really hyped up for both guys, right? Don't forget about Elijah. I know I got yelled at from some fans because of the way I have talked about Bryce instead of Elijah ever since Elijah committed. But nonetheless, don't forget about Elijah. He's going to be a multi-year starter at Michigan, so highly recommend you check that out. But who is going to be Bryce Underwood's offensive coordinator? Because Kirk Campbell is gone. Now, I had some different thoughts on Kirk Campbell. Now, there's been no one that I know of that has been as openly harsh in the media on Kirk Campbell than I have been. I mean, I'm sure there has to be. I'm sure. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's me, but I'm just saying, like, I have been very harsh on him to the point where I apologized to him after the Ohio State game. But I went to thinking yesterday, I was on the phone with a colleague, my guy Clayton Safey, on my way to Ann Arbor yesterday for the signing day press conference. And I was saying I feel bad for Kirk because he was kind of he wasn't given much of an opportunity to succeed. Now, that doesn't erase from the play calling that I thought wasn't good. I mean, I'll even go as far, and one of you out there, Rick Lempert, who's a devoted watcher or listener of this show, had mentioned this. He said, in an email to me yesterday, where he was talking about how the touchdown call, he still didn't feel like it was the right play call for the right time, because Ohio State could have essentially gone into desperation mode and started going with a hurry up 2 minute, but down 7 with about 6 minutes left. I think I said something about it on this show, but me and my memory, I don't really remember. So I will give credit to Rick here. But I agree with that analysis. I thought like it was a wonderful play call in terms of the fact that he schemed it for Michigan to get a touchdown, but you also wanted to keep Ohio State at bay. So like to me, like great play call in terms of what the call was, but also I question it in terms of the timing. Like I think I would have just run the ball, tried to take more time off, all of that stuff. But even that, like everything played out perfectly. If he would have taken more time off, Ohio State could have, been looking at 4 minutes left, and they might have had a little bit more of a sense of urgency than it had. So I'm just kind of fine with the way everything played out there, despite everything. But that said, Kirk Campbell was tasked with cobbling together an offense with an basically all new offensive line, a running back in Donovan who has had better years, but obviously is coming off a not great year. Caleb Mullings, who we've seen sparingly to that point at running back, a quarterback who had only started 7 games in his basically his high school and college career total, a wide receiving core that Tyler Morris might be the only one that could start at this juncture at another, at a MAC school. I'm not trying to malign, Kendrick Bell. I've told you I've been very excited about his potential. Peyton O'Leary had the huge catch against Ohio State. I'm not trying to malign these guys. I'm just saying personnel-wise, at a place like Michigan, generally, if you're the offensive coordinator, you've got more horses to work with than Colston Loveland, who's the last guy that I didn't mention there. So kind of behind the 8 ball there, and I thought just given the service that he had, I would have liked to have seen him in a diminished role, and that didn't happen. And I feel really bad for him. And I talked to Kirk for a little while last night, and I can assure you this guy loves Michigan more than anything and is heartbroken. And I'm heartbroken for him, to be honest, even with everything. And I wasn't going to share that except for just to basically let you know to be kind to people, even when, you feel like they're, hey, did you do a great job at the position? No, but there are reasons, right? There are certainly reasons. So let's get to who would replace Kirk. because there's a lot of names out there. I put 5, 3 of which are ones that I've heard like from actual sources. Well, I saw say 1 was from a colleague. 2 were just my own kind of machinations. So let's start with that. Dan Mullen's the one that's obviously, like, I heard that about, I don't know, when did Bryce commit? 2 weeks ago today. So I heard about that about 4 weeks ago, that Dan Mullen and Byron Leftwich were the names that were put out there. So to me, to Bryce, essentially, from what I understand from a source close to all of that. And to me, Dan Mullen, I know a lot of people are like, I don't know, pass. I think that would be a home run hire, definitely. Byron Leftwich, a little less so, because he's never coached in college. So who knows about the recruiting? How much did Tom Brady help him out? I know he was a hot name in the NFL for a minute, but I mean, at the same time, he was an NFL OC. But I also don't want to see necessarily the same learning curve we saw with Wink Martindale, who finally got the hang of it in the last couple of weeks, but 2.5 weeks of the regular season, I don't want to see that type of learning curve. So I'd kind of be more inclined to go with a guy that was able to coach in the Urban Meyer system and do the things that he was able to do with Tim Tebow and Percy Harvin. And obviously those were tough fronts. I mean, he as a head coach, still had some really good offenses, Mississippi State with Dak Prescott, and then obviously at Florida as well. Thought he kind of got a raw deal being fired by Florida, to be honest. That's kind of the same thing as the Lions firing Caldwell, whatever his first name was, to be able to bring in John C. Reilly's doppelganger. Sorry, I need a little bit of the energy juice. I think that he would be a big hire, but who would I want? I think if it's not Dan Mullen, he was my pick until I read up on Joe Craddock. Joe Craddock is, if you don't know who he is 39 years old. He's at Tulane as of current. This is his first year at Tulane. Still coaching a really great offense there. He was at Troy the last 2 years. He was the tight ends coach at UAB the year before, after a not great stint at Arkansas. Chad Morris over there. He followed Chad Morris from SMU. He's got a long history of being an offensive coordinator. And he's got his start with Clemson as a development assistant. That is who I would want. A development assistant working with quarterbacks. He runs a pro style, but he's more about he's on the record saying, like, it's not about my scheme as much as it is figuring out what my players can do best and putting them in those positions where they can go and do what they do best. That is 100% the guy I'd want. Right? Like, it's like a current NFL pro style too. It's not like it's not like pro style Bo Schembechler era, right? It's not Jim Harbaugh 2016. It's Jim Harbaugh 2023. But I would imagine with a lot more passing. So that's who I would want. I also added a couple of my own. Brian Griese, just because it was like, you can't count out a guy that was a Michigan quarterback that's a coach. He's currently the San Francisco 49ers quarterbacks coach. Brock Purdy, Mr. Relevant, one of the top guys in QBR in the league the last couple of years, including this year. He still is. But obvious knocks. NFL guy, has never been a play caller, has never been a recruiter. But I can't count out the Michigan guy, because you know that if there's a Michigan guy out there with some kind of relevant experience, that he is potentially on the list. But then the other guy I would really want is Garrett Riley, the Clemson offensive coordinator. You all saw him and his offense against Michigan and TCU. Not enough pro style ish things, but I mean, just did some amazing things, and he's really turned Clemson around lately. So I think that if Michigan really wants a guy like that, they can absolutely go get a guy like that. Now, Jason Candle, the Toledo head coach, is being bandied about in a lot of think pieces and stuff, and I'm sure that people are getting that from like reputable sources. To me, that's a no thanks. I have my reasons. I'm not going to share them here. But sorry, people. But that would be, to me, that would be a no as an offensive coordinator. But out of those names that I mentioned, for me, it's Mullen or Craddock. And I've heard some stuff about Mike Loxley. I mean, he's still, I believe, gainfully employed at Maryland, and just fired Josh Gaddis. I mean, it's time to bring Josh Gaddis and Doug Nussmeier home. Let's just be honest. But Loxley would be great, but at the same time, he's still gainfully employed as a head coach. So I don't know about that one. Okay. So we'll see if that happens, but I'll be curious. Michigan's going to have to figure out what it's going to do in short order, especially with the transfer portal and all of that, right? You got to be able to give people some names. I'm sure that they are, and I'm sure that they will. So that's that. All right, I want to talk a little bit about some hilarity that's come out of the last few days. The Ohio State attempts at trolling. They're a fun bunch. They're a funny bunch. Let's talk about it here in a moment. All right, we got a couple minutes left. We're not going to drag this thing out to 30 minutes just for reasons. But I think that the biggest enjoyment that I have gotten out of Saturday's result, it's all summed up in one video, and that one video is it's Jack Sawyer and his whole ordeal, right? Like just the, your season's over as he's like choking back tears, right? Like it wouldn't be as fun if it wasn't for the hubris, right? The bravado, especially the pregame and all of that stuff. And I came back for this, exactly this, to beat Michigan, to get my gold pants. I'm going to give my gold pants to, I think he said his mom, or maybe it was his grandma. Well, you didn't get gold pants. I'm sure you could find some on eBay. But that's kind of been the reaction that I've seen, like in my mentions, just all over the internet and all of this in the last few days, of just kind of the like, haha, Michigan fans, you are going to go play in the Bahamas Bowl while we're going to the college football playoff. So hardy har har. You think that hurts Michigan fans? No, it doesn't. That's why we think this is funny. I'd never thought that a win over Ohio State could be hilarious. This one was. Why was it hilarious? Because Michigan fields its worst team since 2014, the last year Brady Hoke, when Michigan went 5-7. They went 7-5 the year before that, right? This is the last team that, and the funny thing is 2013 when they went 7-5 in the regular season, it was surprising that Devin Gardner had kind of led them to almost win that game, and it would have been a huge upset, but that wouldn't have been as funny, right? Like we knew they had that potential in them. It just, we saw it in the Notre Dame game. I guess that Notre Dame game could have been like the USC game this year. But like this just ended up being hilarious because Michigan had no offense to speak of going into this game. Like Davis Warren threw for 67 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now, let's be clear about things. Davis made huge plays when it was absolutely necessary. Every bit of those 67 yards came at like absolute opportune times, right? Including his run that he had. But nonetheless, it is hilarious because for all of the off-season crowing, for all of the rent is due, the bill is due, all of that stuff, for all of the, just wait until November of it all. For the, this is the best team ever assembled. All of it. You lost to a team that was like fielding an offense that I was, basically running in. For 43, you could have put me out there and it probably wouldn't be sizably different in some ways. Okay. I mean, except for plays, they'd have to call a timeout after every play that I'm on because I'd just be like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Along Came Polly, just like the lungs are burning. The lungs are they're burning. So when they hit you with the like we're still doing stuff and you're not, like every Michigan fan is completely satisfied. There's not one out there that bothers them. Like, oh man, they're not playing on the college. Well, Michigan just got out of a 3-year run which culminated in a national championship. It's the same thing as Michigan State fans. Except for that was coming off of a loss. It was the same thing as Michigan State fans in 2021 after Michigan beat Ohio State. They were like, aha, well, you still lost to us. No Michigan fans cared. And every Michigan fan that I know, at least, was like, we don't care. We beat Ohio State and are going to the college football playoff. Like, what do you want from us? Like, enjoy your Peach Bowl, guys. So it just makes it that much better. That's like their only thing that they can kind of go to is like, oh, we're in the college football playoff. Our season still matters. You might be at home watching Michigan in whatever bowl game because you still got to get through your gauntlet. If you win it all, congratulations. That's great for you. It's kind of Taco from the league, you know, and if you win, I'm going to be so happy for you. Like, you're not supposed to, you're my brother. You're not supposed to be, you know, you're ruining this, like the gloatingness, but that's kind of how it is. So congratulations, Ohio State fans. There's nothing you can say that's actually going to rile up a Michigan fan at this point. They're going to respond to you and you're going to sit there with a smooth brain and being like, rent free. Like, no, that's not it. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We will be back on Friday. We'll see if we do a mailbag. If I do, I'll put out a late call for it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.